The day commenced in a manner consistent with previous days. I departed the office shortly after 5 p.m., whistling a cheerful melody as I drove home. My wife, Emily, has been the object of my affection since our marriage immediately following our graduation from college. Despite the challenges that the years have brought, our bond appeared to be unbreakable. At least, that was my perception when I entered the house. Upon entering the kitchen, I observed Emily seated at the table, a glass of red wine in her hand. A bottle of my preferred whiskey, Monkey Shoulder, and a glass had been set out for me. I smiled, contemplating that she had planned a pleasant evening for us. I was unaware that my world was about to undergo a significant transformation. "Hey honey," I said, taking a seat. I retrieved my briefcase and poured myself a drink. What could this possibly be about? Emily looked up at me with an expression that was both unsettling and calm. "David, we need to talk," she said in a steady but distant voice. I felt a knot form in my stomach. What could possibly be going on? I asked, attempting to keep my tone light. She took a sip of her wine and then set the glass down. "Have I been a good wife?" she inquired, her gaze fixed on mine. I frowned, uncertain of her intent. "Of course you have. You've been exemplary. Why would you ask that?" She exhaled, her eyes descending to the table. "I've been contemplating a significant shift in my perspective. I've reached a decision. I desire to expand my horizons." The notion of dating other men was a bolt from the blue. I sat there, dumbfounded, unable to process what she had just said. "You want to what?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm not asking for a divorce," Emily replied, her expression unwavering. "I still love you, David. But I need to explore. I need to know what else is out there before it's too late." David was visibly distraught. They had been together for over 2 decades and had established a life and family. She then took his hand, indicating that he was getting older and that she did not want him to have regrets. She stated that she had given him everything and had been faithful for a long time. She then asked him to understand her need for this. He pulled his hand back, feeling a combination of anger and desperation emerged, accompanied by the question, "What about us? What about our marriage?" The speaker expressed disbelief at the notion that he could simply wait while she engaged in such activities. Tears welled up in her eyes, yet she remained steadfast. While the situation might not be straightforward, she hoped he could comprehend that it was not about him but about her. The speaker stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I am incredulous at your assertion that you wish to pursue romantic interests with other men while I remain in this situation. How do you anticipate that I will accept this?" Emily stood, her voice rising slightly. "I am reluctant to cause you pain, but I am unable to ignore this feeling. I must pursue this course of action, David." The room seemed to spin. I then proceeded to consume a substantial quantity of whiskey in a single act, the burning sensation in my throat matching the intensity of the emotions currently consuming me. Emily's actions and demeanor were perplexing, evincing a complex blend of sorrow and determination. "I recognize that it might be challenging for you to comprehend the situation, but I am imploring you to place trust in me and in my ability to return to you." I then proceeded to. As she retreated, I was unable to accept her decision. Emily's demeanor shifted, and she proceeded upstairs to change. I observed her departure, experiencing a complex emotional state that included heartbreak and disbelief. How could circumstances alter so drastically, and how could the woman I cherish above all else choose to abandon her current life for the pursuit of experiences? I remained in place for what seemed like an extended period, gazing at the area where she had been standing. The sound of a vehicle horn outside abruptly disrupted my reverie. I turned to observe a sleek, black automobile stationed at the curb. Emily descended the stairs, exuding a striking presence in a form-fitting, black dress that accentuated her figure. She cast a fleeting glance in my direction. Her eyes expressed a desire for comprehension. "I'll be back later," she said in a soft voice. I did not respond, I was unable to do so. I observed as she exited the residence, leaving me alone with a devastated heart and a mind filled with unanswered inquiries. As the vehicle departed, I sank into a chair with my head in my hands. My life had just undergone a significant transformation. I was in a state of disarray, uncertain of how to proceed. Seated alone in the kitchen, I gazed at the empty whiskey glass in front of me, contemplating the implications of Emily's revelation. How had we reached this point? I reflected on the series of events that had led us to this juncture. I met her in college. She was a lively and captivating young woman, the center of attention. I was just an ordinary guy, but somehow managed to catch her eye. Our relationship blossomed quickly, filled with late-night conversations, spontaneous adventures, and a deep and genuine connection. By graduation, we were inseparable. After we were married, the early years were filled with joy and excitement. We traveled, explored new places, and built a life together. Emily was my rock, my confidence, and my best friend. We talked about everything from our dreams and ambitions to our fears and insecurities. We were a team facing the world together. Over time, we settled into a comfortable routine. We bought a house, had 2 beautiful children, and focused on our careers. Life was busy, but we always made time for each other. Date nights, weekend getaways, and quiet evenings at home kept our bond strong. I thought we were happy. I thought she was happy. However, in retrospect, there were signs that I had missed. Emily had always been the center of attention, throwing people to her effortlessly. She thrived on the admiration and validation she received from others. I had never imagined that this could become a source of discontent. A few years ago, I noticed a change. In hindsight, I have come to recognize that there were indications that I had overlooked. Emily had consistently occupied a central position in our social circle, effortlessly drawing admiration and validation from those around her. I had perceived this as an inherent aspect of her charisma, never anticipating that it might eventually give rise to feelings of discontent. A few years ago, I began to observe a shift in her demeanor. She appeared increasingly restless, often lost in thought, and was spending less time at home. I initially attributed these changes to a personal phase she was going through, assuming that she needed time to work through her own issues. However, I now realize that there were underlying factors at play. There was a noticeable shift in her demeanor. She frequently appeared lost in thought and began spending more time with friends, all the while spending less time at home. I initially dismissed this as a mere phase, an inevitable rite of passage that she would eventually overcome on her own. However, as I sat there tonight, memories of our shared history flooded my mind, each one a reminder of the foundation we had built together. Our wedding day, the birth of our children, and the countless moments of laughter and love were vivid in my recollection. I had dedicated myself fully to this marriage, yet it seemed as if it were slipping through my fingers. The sound of Emily's voice echoed in my mind, and I was overwhelmed by a sense of longing. She expressed a desire to date other men, which I found difficult to comprehend. How could she discard the foundations of our relationship for a transient gratification? I was unable to process this information. I rose from my seat and traversed the house, each room bearing mementos of our shared history. The living room, where we watched films with our children, and the dining room, where we had shared family meals, and the bedroom where we whispered our dreams to each other at night. However, it all felt so fragile now, as though it could crumble at any moment. In our bedroom, I found a photo album on the nightstand. I opened it and flipped through the pages, which were filled with pictures of our life together. In the photos, we were young and full of hope for the future. The future was represented by a golden road, and each photo told a story, a chapter in our journey. I paused at a picture of us on our hunting moon. We were standing on a beach, the sun setting behind us, our arms wrapped around each other. The smiles on our faces were genuine, reflecting the love and excitement we felt. The excitement we felt was palpable. I traced my fingers over the image, pondering the couple's fate. Had I failed her in some way? Had I missed the signs that she needed more than I could provide? A maelstrom of guilt and confusion engulfed me, each thought more painful than the last. I had always believed in the strength of our love. Our commitment now was called into question. I sank onto the bed, the weight of the evening pressing down on me. Emily's words kept replaying in my mind, each repetition a fresh stab of pain. I needed to talk to someone to make sense of this situation, but who could I turn to? Our friends would never understand, and I couldn't burden them with this. As I lay there, gazing at the ceiling, I came to the realization that my life had undergone a profound transformation. The future was shrouded in uncertainty, and the path ahead was unclear. However, one thing was certain: I could no longer continue to pretend that everything was fine. I had to confront this issue head-on, for my own sake and for the sake of our family. With a heavy heart, I resolved to identify a viable path forward. Emily and I needed to engage in a candid dialogue about the state of our marriage and our future aspirations. I was not yet prepared to abandon our relationship, but I was unable to disregard the stark reality of our circumstances. We were at a pivotal juncture, and the decisions we made in the immediate future would significantly impact our future trajectory. The events of the night would have a profound impact on the remainder of our lives. As the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains and I finally closed my eyes, overcome with exhaustion. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, and hopefully some answers, but for now, I needed rest. The journey ahead was going to be long and difficult, but I was determined. The following morning, I arose with a heavy heart and an even heavier head. Emily was already downstairs, her usual cheerful humming absent. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the conversation we needed to have. As I descended the stairs, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The atmosphere was starkly divergent from the prevailing tension between us. Emily was seated at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee. She glanced up as I entered the room, her eyes reflecting a complex mixture of guilt and determination. "Morning," she said softly. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat across from her. "We need to talk," I stated. I stated my intention in a calm, yet assertive manner. She acknowledged my statement with a nod and placed her cup on the table. We remained silent for a moment, the weight of unspoken words between us palpable. Finally, I broke the silence. "Emily, I require an explanation. Why now, after all these years, do you feel the need to explore other relationships?" Her shoulders slumped slightly. "David, I love you. I have always loved you, but lately, I have felt a restlessness, a need to experience more before it is too late. This is not about you, it is about me and what I feel like I am missing." I shook my head, frustration bubbling up. "What about us, our family? Do you expect me to just sit by and watch while you date other men?" Tears swelled up in her eyes as she realized that she was expected to simply watch while he dated other women. She did not expect it to be easy, but she hoped that he would understand that she needed time to figure things out. I echoed, "I'm incredulous, Emily. You're talking about our marriage and our life together. How can you possibly expect me to be okay with this?" Her expression hardened slightly. "I need this, David. I've given you everything for over 20 years. I need to do this for myself." I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "This is insane, Emily. You can't just decide to modify the marital contract because you feel restless." She stood, her voice rising. "I have to do this. I'm suffocating here. David, I need to know what else is out there before it's too late." I felt my control slipping, anger and hurt mixing into a volatile cocktail. The reality of the situation was now becoming apparent to me. Emily looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," she whispered. "I've reached my limit. I can't continue living like this, wondering when you'll return and who you'll be with." "It's too much," she said, her eyes conveying desperation. "Please, David, just try to understand." "I can't. I won't," I replied firmly, backing away from her. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice trembling. "This is over, Emily. If you can't commit to our marriage, then there's nothing left for us. If marriage is not an option, then there is no further possibility of a relationship." She regarded me with astonishment. I reiterated my resolve, stating that although I love her, I am unable to share her if she wishes to pursue other relationships. If she chooses to do so, she should do so without me. The silence that followed was profound. Emily's face, she collapsed and turned away, heading upstairs without uttering another word. I proceeded to wash her, experiencing a complex emotional state that was a combination of sorrow and relief. The following days were a blur, we avoided each other, and the tension in the house was palpable. I threw myself into work in an attempt to distract myself from the pain. However, every moment of solitude was consumed by thoughts of Emily and the shared experiences we had constructed together. One evening, I returned home to discover Emily packing a suitcase. She looked up as I entered the room, her eyes red from crying. "I'm going to stay with my sister for a while," she said quietly. I nodded, unable to find the words as much as it hurt. I knew this was the only way forward. We needed space and time to figure out what we wanted. As she left, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and relief. The house was quiet, almost peaceful, but the emptiness was overwhelming. I sat on the couch, staring at the spot where Emily had been. Our marriage was at a breaking point, and I was uncertain about the future. However, one thing was clear: I could not continue living in limbo. It was time to make difficult decisions and face the reality of our situation. I loved Emily, but I could not accept a life of uncertainty and betrayal. It was time to find a new path, even if it meant letting go. As the days turned into weeks, I began to adjust to my new reality. Emily and I spoke occasionally, trying to navigate the complexities of our separation. It was a challenging process, but it was essential for both parties involved. The future was uncertain, but I was certain of one thing: I had to take control of my own happiness. This meant making difficult decisions, regardless of the pain they might cause. The days following Emily's departure were a peculiar blend of freedom and loneliness. I missed her dearly, yet at the same time, I felt a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. The house was quieter, and the routine we had established over 2 decades was disrupted, leaving me with more time to think and reflect. One evening, as I was scrolling, a notification from an old friend, Mark, appeared on my phone. We had lost touch over the years, but his message was simple: "Let's catch up over drinks this Friday." I hesitated for a moment before replying, "Sure, see you at Joe's bar at 7. Friday came, and I found myself walking into Joe's bar, a place filled with memories of happier times. Mark was already there, a grin spreading across his face as he saw me. "David, long time man," he said, clapping me on the back. "Yeah, it's been too long," I replied, taking a seat next to him. We ordered drinks and soon fell into conversation. The conversation was relatively straightforward, with both men reminiscing about the past and updating each other on their lives. As the night progressed, however, the discussion took on a more serious tone. Mark inquired about Emily's current situation, and I replied with a sigh, taking a long sip of my whiskey. I explained that the situation was complex and that we were currently separated, and she is interested in exploring other relationships. Mark's eyebrows rose in surprise. He replied, "That is unfortunate. How are you holding up?" I shrugged, feeling a mix of emotions. I am unsure of how to proceed. Some days are better than others, but I am trying to figure things out. Mark nodded thoughtfully in response. "Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to reclaim your identity and pursue long-held aspirations that have been overshadowed by familial and marital responsibilities." I had spent a considerable portion of my life focusing on my marriage and family, to the detriment of my own dreams and interests. Mark's words resonated with me, suggesting that this could be a pivotal moment to reconnect with my personal goals. Over the following weeks, I began to implement minor changes in my lifestyle. I joined a gym, a long-held aspiration that I had previously lacked the time to pursue. I also picked up my guitar, an old passion of mine, and started playing again. The music was a therapeutic experience to express my feelings and escape the turmoil of my thoughts. One evening after a particularly good workout at the gym, I decided to treat myself to a night out. I had heard good things about a new bar downtown, so I dressed up and headed out. The bar was lively, filled with people laughing and chatting. I found a seat at the bar and ordered a drink. I enjoyed the atmosphere as I sipped my drink. I noticed a woman sitting a few seats down glancing my way. She had a warm smile and kind eyes. For the first time in a long while, I experienced a surge of interest, mustering the courage to approach her. I took a seat adjacent to her and introduced myself as David. She reciprocated with a smile and a handshake. "Nice to meet you," she said. "You too," I replied. We proceeded to engage in conversation, and I found myself divulging information about myself in a manner I had not done in years. She was affable and receptive, and we engaged in discourse about our respective lives, our interests, and our challenges. There was a palpable affinity between us, a quality that was both authentic and invigorating. As the evening progressed, I experienced a renewed sense of enthusiasm and potential, a feeling that had eluded me for an extended period. Perhaps there was hope for me yet. Subsequently, Lily and I continued to see each other over the following weeks. Our relationship was novel and exhilarating, enabling me to rediscover aspects of myself that I had long neglected. I began to feel more assured and in control of my life. I was no longer defined by my marriage or my past, I was creating a new future for myself. One evening, as we sat together on my couch, Lily turned to me with a serious expression and asked, "David, I need to ask you something. Are you truly ready to move on? I mean, in light of the recent developments with Emily, I feel compelled to ascertain your readiness for a new phase in your life." I grasped her hand and gazed into her eyes. "Lily, I must admit that your presence has brought me immense joy and positive change. Despite the pain of the past, I am prepared to move forward. I am interested in seeing where this goes." She smiled, and her eyes filled with warmth. I am gratified to hear that I feel the same way in that moment. I realized that I was finally starting to heal. The pain of the past was still there, but it was no longer defining me. I was rediscovering myself. As time passed, I discovered new sources of joy and embarked on new beginnings. My life continued to improve, and I reconnected with old friends, pursued new interests, and built a deeper relationship with Emily. I remained in contact with her primarily for the sake of our children, but the dynamic between us had shifted. I no longer felt the same sense of loss and desperation. I had found a new path, one that was filled with hope and possibility. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt optimistic about the future. I reached a breaking point and emerged stronger, prepared to embrace whatever came next. The initial euphoria of my newfound independence began to settle into a steady rhythm, and life improved. Lily and I grew closer, and I was making progress at work and in my personal endeavors. However, the shadow of my past lingered, especially when it came to Emily. One Saturday afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Emily. "David, can we meet? I need to talk to you," she said. Her voice was shaky, and I felt curiosity and caution. "Sure, how about the cafe on Maple Street at 3 p.m.? Upon my arrival, Emily was already present, nursing a cup of coffee. She appeared fatigued, and the sparkle that had previously characterized her demeanor was noticeably diminished. I took a seat opposite her, uncertain of what to anticipate. "David," she began, her voice wavering. "I've been engaged in a significant period of introspection, and I've come to realize that I made a grave misstep. I experienced a complex emotional state, comprising anger, pity, and a residual sense of affection." "What do you mean, Emily?" she inquired, taking a deep breath and displaying tears. "This pursuit of alternative relationships has proven to be a significant misstep. I believed I required a more expansive connection, yet it became evident that what I truly needed was already within reach. From the outset, I have regretted our separation, David. I have missed you." Her words struck me with the force of a physical blow. For a moment, I was transported back to the happy times we shared. However, the pain of her betrayal was still fresh. "Emily, you cannot simply undo the damage you have caused. You left because you wanted something else. How can I trust you? I will not attempt to change your mind again." She extended her hand across the table, trembling. "I am aware that I have caused you pain, and I am unable to undo that. However, I have come to recognize that my happiness is contingent upon your presence in my life. I acknowledge that I was selfish and foolish. I am willing to make amends if you allow me the opportunity to do so." I retracted my hand, my mind racing. "Emily, I am uncertain if it is a simple matter. You have shattered my trust, and it has required significant effort to begin the process of rebuilding my life. I am unsure if I am able to return to the way things were." Her face crumpled. She wiped away a tear. "I understand that my intention was to inform you of this. I apologize if my actions caused distress. If there is ever a possibility of my presence being required, I will be waiting." We sat in silence for a period of time, allowing the gravity of her words to take effect. I was forced to acknowledge that a part of me still held feelings for her, yet I was determined not to allow myself to become trapped in the same patterns of behavior. I recognized the necessity of maintaining forward momentum for my own benefit. Following our meeting, I experienced a sense of resolution. Emily's regret was evident. However, it was not possible to erase the past. I returned home to Lily, who greeted me with a warm smile and a comforting hug. She inquired about the meeting, asking how it had gone. I replied that it had been intense. Emily expressed regret, but I informed her that I was unable to return to the past and that I needed to keep moving forward. Lily kissed my forehead and said, "I'm proud of you, David. You have come a long way, and you deserve to be happy." As time passed, Emily's attempts to reconnect became less frequent. It was evident that Emily was experiencing significant challenges, and while I empathized with her situation, I was certain that my future lay in a different direction. Lily and I continued to strengthen our relationship, and I found comfort in her unwavering support and understanding. One evening, as Lily and I were preparing dinner together, she turned to me with a serious expression. "David, I need to ask you something important. And I need to know where we stand," she said, her eyes searching mine. I put down the knife I was using to chop vegetables and took her hands in mine. "Lily, Emily will always be a part of my past, but my feelings for you are a change. What we had is over, but I care about you and I want to build a future with you." Relief washed over her face, and she smiled. That's all I needed to hear. We continued cooking, the atmosphere light and filled with hope. I proceeded to move forward, and for the first time in a considerable period of time, I felt at peace with my decision. Several months elapsed, and my bond with Lily grew stronger. We embarked on journeys together, explored new fields of interest, and created innumerable memories. Emily remained a part of my past, serving as a reminder of the lessons I had learned and the strength I had gained. One day, I received a letter from Emily. In it, she expressed her gratitude for the years we had shared and her profound regret for the pain she had caused. She had caused me pain and distress, and in her own way, she was letting go. Reading her words, I felt a sense of finality. It was time to fully embrace the present and look forward to the future. Emily and I had shared a life, but that chapter had closed. Now it was time to write new ones with the people who mattered most. Lily and I sat on the porch one evening watching the sunset. She rested her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her. "Around her, here's to new beginnings," I said softly. She looked up at me, her eyes shining with love. "Let us leave the past where it belongs," I continued, as the sun dipped below the horizon. I felt a sense of contentment. The journey had been long and painful, but I had found my way. With Lily by my side, the future looked brighter than ever. Life was beginning to feel normal again, or at least a new kind of normal. Emily and I were finding our footing as co-parents. Parents should maintain communication for the benefit of their children. Lily and I were developing a strong relationship, and my confidence was growing daily. One evening, my daughter Megan called and requested a dinner meeting. I suggested our preferred Italian restaurant, and she accepted. I arrived early, feeling nervous and restless, drumming my fingers on the table. Megan was a perceptive and intelligent young woman. She must have sensed the upheaval in my life when she walked in. Her smile was warm but tinged with worry. "Hey Dad," she said, hugging me tightly. "Hello sweetheart," I replied, pulling out a chair for her as we settled in and ordered. Megan got straight to the point. "Dad, how are you really doing? I've been worried about you. I'm attempting to navigate this situation. How are you coping? It has been challenging to witness your mother and you grappling with this predicament. It has been particularly arduous. I am aware that she has made some misguided decisions, but I am reluctant to lose my family. Her candor has had a profound impact on me. Megan, you are not losing your family. Your mother and I will always be here for you and your brother. Things may appear to have changed, but they are not. It is a different situation now," she replied, her eyes welling up with tears. "I understand, honey, but you have to know that both your mom and I love you very much. We are trying to find a new normal, and I hope you can find it too." Megan wiped her eyes and managed a small smile. "Thank you, Dad. I just want you to be happy. I am happy. Megan, it has taken some time, but I am gradually adjusting. I have recently formed a new relationship that has brought me much happiness. I said this in the hope of reassuring her. Megan's demeanor visibly improved. Lily, who my daughter has mentioned, is a wonderful person. I concurred. Megan smiled, indicating her approval. I would like to meet her as soon as possible, I suggested, as we finished dinner. I felt a sense of relief. Megan's acceptance and understanding were instrumental in my recovery process. I was aware that the road ahead would still have challenges, but with the support of my family and Lily, I felt better equipped to handle whatever came our way. A few weeks later, I arranged for Megan to meet Lily. We decided on a casual brunch at a cozy cafe downtown. When we arrived, Megan and Lily immediately connected, chatting like old friends. The observation of their interaction imbued me with a sense of hope and relief. Megan, it is a pleasure to finally meet you. Lily greeted her warmly, offering a hug. You as well, Lily. My father has informed me of much about you, Megan replied, her smile indicating her pleasure at the conversation. As they conversed, I perceived the pieces of my life coming together in a novel and attractive manner. The acceptance from my daughter meant a great deal to me, and I was gratified to see her bond with Lily provided reassurance that I was on the correct trajectory following the brunch. Megan pulled me aside and stated, Dad, I truly like her. She appears to be an exceptional individual. She is Mayan, and she has assisted me in numerous ways. I am grateful for her support. Megan embraced me firmly. I am pleased for you, Dad. You deserve to experience happiness over the next few months. Our family dynamic continued to evolve. Emily and I engaged in frequent communication, focusing on collaborative efforts. As a parent, there were still challenging moments, but overall, things were improving. Lily became more integrated into my life, and our relationship deepened. One evening as Lily and I were preparing dinner together, I experienced a sense of peace. I had never thought I would find happiness again. I said, You know, David, I never thought I would find happiness again. I was chopping vegetables beside her. Lily looked at me, her eyes filled with love. You did, David, and so did I, she said. We shared a tender moment. In that moment, I was aware that despite the pain and heartache, life had a way of providing what was needed. As the weeks turned into months, the children grew closer to Lily, who became a cherished part of our family. Emily, however, was still grappling with her own regrets. She respected my newfound happiness and did her best to support our children's adjustment. One day, Megan, her brother Ryan, Lele, and I decided to spend on a day at the park. We engaged in laughter, playful activities, and mutual enjoyment of each other's company. We sat on a picnic blanket and observed the sunset. Megan turned to me and said, Dad, I know things didn't go as planned with Mom, but I'm really glad you're happy now. Her eyes reflected the golden sunset. I replied, Me too, Mayan. Me too. I squeezed her hand. The journey had been lengthy and beset with unforeseen challenges, but I had ultimately found my way. The support and understanding of my family and the love of a wonderful woman enabled me to embrace the future with hope and gratitude as the sun dipped below the horizon. Despite the challenges that life had presented, I had emerged stronger, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Collectively, we were prepared to confront the uncertainties of the future and to create new memories while cherishing the bond that held us together. Together, we had established a comfortable routine, one that felt balanced and full of promise, with the past firmly behind us. I focused on the future and the new chapter one was building with Lily. Our relationship had grown stronger, and it was clear we had something special. However, there were still moments when the past cast a shadow over our happiness. One sunny afternoon, Lily and I decided to take a trip to we proceeded to a rural area and prepared a picnic. We had previously identified a picturesque meadow on one of our weekend excursions. The location was tranquil, with wildflowers gently swaying in the breeze and birds singing overhead. It offered a welcome respite from the demands of daily life as we arranged the picnic blanket and unpacked the food. I observed that Lily was unusually quiet. I sat down next to her and gently took her hand. Everything? I inquired. I inquired about my concerns, and she gazed at me, her eyes searching mine. David, I have been contemplating a great deal recently about us and our future. My heartbeat accelerated. What about our future together, Lily? She exhaled, squeezing my hand. I love you, David, more than I ever imagined possible. However, I must ascertain whether you are genuinely prepared to move on from Emily. I require confirmation that you are committed to us. Her words resonated with me profoundly, yet I was able to comprehend her perspective. Lily stated that she was committed to David. She indicated that Emily would always be a part of her past, but that she was content with that. She expressed that her future was with David. Tears formed in her eyes as she smiled. She indicated that she needed to hear that she wanted to build something beautiful together without any shadows hanging over them. David pulled her into a tight embrace and kissed her forehead. He promised that they would stay together. They sat there holding each other, and David indicated that he felt a sense of clarity. He stated that the past had shaken him, but it did not define him with Lily. On the other hand, I was prepared to embrace the future wholeheartedly. Our relationship continued to flourish, and we began making plans for the future. We discussed moving in together, potential travel destinations, and even the possibility of marriage. Each conversation brought us closer together and strengthened our bond. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, Lily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. David, she said, there's something I've been wanting to do with. What is it? I inquired, curious. Let's take a dance class together, she suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I've always wanted to learn ballroom dancing, she continued, and I think it would be a fun way for us to connect even more. I chuckled, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Dancing? I asked. I've never been much of a dancer. For you, I'll give it a try, she replied, her face lighting up with joy. Great, she said, it'll be fun. The following week, we signed up for a ballroom dance class. At a local studio, the initial lessons were characterized by awkwardness, missteps, and laughter. However, as time passed, we gradually found our rhythm, and dancing with Lily became exhilarating. It was a beautiful metaphor for our relationship, encapsulating the essence of learning to move together, supporting each other, and finding joy in the process. One evening, after a particularly good dance session, we walked back to the car hand in hand. The moonlight cast a soft glow on the street, and everything felt perfect. Lily stopped and turned. Her eyes were radiant with affection. David, this has been one of the most exceptional experiences of my life. I am gratified that we are embarking on this journey together. She articulated this sentiment in a subdued voice. I drew her close, feeling the warmth of her body against mine. I concur, Lily. You have brought immense joy to my life. We kissed beneath the moonlight, the world receding around us in that moment. I sensed that we were predestined to be together and that our love was sufficiently robust to surmount any obstacle. As the months elapsed, we continued to dance, both literally and metaphorically. We faced challenges and celebrated victories, always supporting each other. Our love grew deeper and our future together became more certain. One day while we were hiking in the mountains, I felt the surge of emotion, and the beauty of the landscape mirrored the beauty of the life we were building together. I stopped and turned to Lily, and I knew that we had talked about the future a lot, but there was something I needed to say. I must say. With a voice that trembled slightly, she gazed at me with a curious and loving expression. David. I took a deep breath, reached into my pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. I placed the ring on her finger, experiencing a surge of joy and relief. We kissed, symbolizing our commitment to each other in that moment. I was aware that we were embarking on a new chapter, one characterized by love, hope, and endless possibilities, as we walked back down the mountain, holding hands. I felt a profound sense of gratitude, recognizing that the journey had been challenging but ultimately rewarding. Together, we were prepared to face whatever the future held. Embraced and open-hearted, the months following our engagement were a whirlwind of planning and excitement. Lily and I were deeply immersed in the details of our upcoming wedding. However, amidst the joy, we never lost sight of the journey that had brought us to this point. Our relationship had been forged in the fire of past pain and current healing, making our bond even stronger. One evening as we sat together on the porch of our new home, Lily leaned her head on my shoulder and exhaled contentedly. Can you believe how far we have come? She murmured. I wrapped my arm around her, smiling. It has been quite the journey, hasn't it? I replied. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. As we watched the sunset, my mind wandered back to the events that had shaped our lives. These included betrayal, heartbreak, moments of doubt, and eventual healing. Each step had been necessary, leading us to the happiness we now cherish. The ceremony was ideal, held in the presence of friends and family. We exchanged vows beneath a canopy of blooming flowers. Megan and Ryan stood by my side, offering unwavering support. Emily was also present, offering her silent blessing. The past no longer held power over me, I had moved on. After the ceremony, as we danced to our favorite song, I whispered in Lily's ear, "Thank you for believing in us." She smiled, her eyes twinkling with tears, and replied, "Thank you for choosing us." The months that followed the years that followed were characterized by a beautiful unfolding of our life together. As is the case with all couples, we faced challenges, but we faced them together, always finding strength in our love and the lessons learned and the strength gained from the wounds of the past. One day, as we sat in our living room, we flipped through the wedding album. Megan and Ryan joined us. They had grown into incredible young adults, and I was immensely proud of them. We laughed at the photos and reminisced. Musing about the day and the journey that had led us there. "Dad, I'm really glad you found happiness again," Megan said, her voice filled with genuine affection. "I concur, sweetheart," I replied, squeezing her hand. Ryan nodded in agreement. "You taught us a lot about resilience and love, Dad." "Thank you." Lily smiled, her hand resting on my knee. "You both demonstrated what it means to support and understand each other. We're proud of you." As the evening progressed, we shared stories and dreams. The room was filled with stories and dreams, laughter, and love. It was a stark contrast to the uncertainty and pain of the past. We had created a new reality, one that was rich with joy and hope. Later that night, as Lily and I prepared for bed, she turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "David," she asked, "do you ever think about how different life might have been if things hadn't happened the way they did?" I paused, considering her question, but not with regret for everything we had experienced. Our past experiences have shaped us, but they do not define us. We are stronger because of them. As we lay in bed wrapped in each other's arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite the challenges we have faced, we have emerged stronger and wiser. I have found love again, not just in Lily, but also in myself and in the life we are building together. Together, we constructed a future imbued with the hues of hope, love, and resilience. While the past had its place, our attention was fixed on the present and the future. As I drifted off to sleep, I expressed gratitude to the universe for bringing Lily into my life. She served as my anchor, my compass, and my most profound love. As we advanced together, hand in hand, I was certain that we would confront whatever challenges came our way, and we would do so together.